He has done thousands of spirit box sessions, and his YouTube channel and TikTok are huge. He's wildly popular. He's an entrepreneur turned paranormal investigator, psychic medium, afterlife researcher, filmmaker, app builder, and author of Finding Hope in the Afterlife. Welcome back to the channel. This is Help from Heaven. I'm Stacey Rose, and with me is Constance Fae. She's psychic medium as well. She channels higher consciousness in its various forms. But we're here with Josh Lewis. Josh, you are actually our first guest that we're having that's a human. Usually we just
Wow.
channel spirit. So you're our first guest, but Connie was actually in one of your first investigations 12 years ago. I think it was the
She
Devil's
was in
Tree.
many. She
She
was in
was.
many of my yeah, we were it was such a pivotal time in in my development, in my spiritual journey. She's in my book. She's locked into my history for forever. So it's awesome.
That was a
Yeah.
really special time.
It
She's
Yeah.
not only
was.
mentioned in your book. You said she's one of the three most influential people in your
She
book, along with
absolutely is.
Steve Huff and Deborah Katz, I believe.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Why do you say that?
I mean, I was on a journey at that time with the paranormal, Nikki and I. We were investigating cemeteries and abandoned buildings and things like that, working with a paranormal team that had been doing strictly paranormal things for 30 plus years. They were training me on how to capture EVP and spirit box stuff. It was just that was really where I was at. And then I remember someone close friend of mine said, I know this medium and you should talk to her. And I had never really worked with mediums. I mean, I had watched John Edwards crossing over and things like that. And that always, kind of captivated me. I was introduced to Connie, who I had seen around town, kind of. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, she came out and we already had captured a lot of information through the spirit boxes and voice recordings and things like that. And here comes Connie and she's, getting information that, first of all, she doesn't know anything about what we're doing, really. She doesn't know any of the information we've captured. And all of a sudden, she's channeling information that is backing up, or it's the same information that we've already captured, which kind of validated her very quickly to what, what we were getting. And I was like, I had no idea what to expect. She's channeling an angel named Jay. And that's what I'm thinking it is, an angel named Jay, until we, discover that this is the big J, which was I mean, that was a night of acceptance of like, I had to really kind of, I had to kind of like cross over into another level of like, of belief. It was like kind of the line that separates the men from the boys in a sense. Are you going to go this distance? And I mean, it was just amazing from there. I mean, the messages that would come through, and you just knew they were very real and yeah, I don't know. I can keep going on and on about it, but it was just such an amazing experience. And there was just one experience that led to the next, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, so going back to your book, you first invited Connie to your business parking lot. I think it was the hookah bar at the time.
Hmm.
And you had been picking up the EVPs of this gentleman, Mike. And then Connie came and you invited her, and right away she started channeling Mike.
Hmm.
But Connie, you did not tell them right away who you were communicating with. You told them, it was just an angel named Jay. Can you
Okay. I
describe?
actually forgot about that until now, because for some time I was a little bit in the closet that I communicated to the spirit or consciousness of Jesus Christ, because I knew most people would think I'm just crazy, and it's, perhaps a hard thing to believe. So yeah, I forgot all about that actually. Yeah. So I must have, yeah,
So
told
you
you that.
picked up on Mike right off the bat, like that's immediately who you channeled. And then you also, through your work, you got a lot of EVPs, Josh. word for word of what Connie just said that the spirit said. So Jesus would come through and say, "We have a group of souls and we're going to cross them over." And then he would kind of guide you in what this person needed to ask for. And then Josh, with your work with the 12 steps, you knew how to like communicate with these troubled souls and then you would get them to cross over. What was that like for you guys, having that experience kind of happen right before your eyes?
Oh, that
Well,
was
I'll just
beautiful.
say that it was one of the coolest things was definitely, mixing the ITC, which is instrumental transcommunication, using the boxes and the spirit, the voice recorders with the intuitive. You know, mostly paranormal groups. I mean, sometimes they'd have a medium with them once in a while, but mainly they stayed with the tech, the gear and the tech. And, most mediums, for the most part, don't trust or didn't use equipment. So they kind of just relied on just their ability. And I liked to marry these things. And so, you have Connie channeling and you have Connie getting verbatim. I mean, she's not seeing, she's not feeling. That's not her ability. Her ability is that clairaudient and getting it almost verbatim and, from the word for word of what the spirit was saying. And so as she was channeling, I would have the box on and, right before she would say something, you would hear something come through the box and then you wouldn't understand what was said yet through the box, but you would hear like something come through and then she would be saying something. And when you go back and you review it, you would hear the phrase come through the box and then come through her. So it was almost like spirit was there talking, just talking in their own way. And the box was picking up part of it. And then Connie was picking up most of it. So it was validating a lot of what she was getting. I think that was one of the coolest phenomenons that we were capturing. So I thought that was, undeniable and amazing for me.
Yeah, to have that evidence. And then Connie, you talked before we started about how beautiful of an experience this was, coming from the point of view that many of these entities were in a very dark place. I wouldn't say entities, these souls were stuck in a very dark place or they did very horrible things in their lifetime. And what was Jesus's attitude and perception toward these people?
Yes, that was, I think, probably a very beautiful learning experience for all of us. Now, many of them were kind of what we'll call nice, normal people, excuse me, but some of them were not so nice, normal people. Some of them did atrocious things, actually, before they died. And I know there were multiple times I would be like, oh gosh, this person did that, or maybe murdered someone, or did just, some did really evil horrible things, and I'd be, oh my goodness, taken aback, and I'd be like, how is Jesus going to respond to the soul, the stuck soul? Of course, we're saving stuck souls and helping them, go to the spirit realm where they're supposed to go. And one thing I just learned repeatedly, again and again and again, every time we went on one of these ventures out, which were many, Josh, he was always just pure, unconditionally loving,
Mhm.
compassionate, and non-judgmental. And it really transformed me dramatically. And I really learned how to develop more of his perception, that's more all loving, and compassionate and non-judgmental. It doesn't mean that a lot of those things were right or good and they didn't need to perhaps experience certain experiences sometime later or in the spirit realm when they did cross over to help them learn that that's not good or right behavior or to develop their heart's compassion and love. But, he was always so, just loving. And it was just really a beautiful time for me of really learning how to develop my heart to a much deeper level in that way. So, I mean, don't you agree, Josh? I mean, it was really,
Yeah, that's really one of the things that really stand out, because you have to understand early before, I had been doing ghost hunting about 6 months, 7, 8 months or so prior to meeting Connie. So I already had kind of been thrusted into the paranormal, investigation as a novice for the most part, working with that 30 plus year team, experienced team. And, they were great people, but they were they were like no BS kind of people, and I just loved them for their training and what they taught me. They were a little bit more like, cast out the demons and, and kind of fight, the fight. And so there was a part of me that was looking for, I don't want to say a fight when it came to going into the paranormal space, but like if there was something negative, I was gonna stand up to the evil that if I was encountering it. But one thing that happened when, when she's channeling Jesus, that I remember, and it's one of the videos that's highlighted in my book that, when you read my book, there's these footnotes and you can go, there's a whole playlist on my channel of videos to go back and watch. So not only are you reading the book of the experiences, you could literally go onto the channel and watch the actual sessions and videos of from when that was happening, which is very rare, when people are telling stories in a book, that you can actually go watch the video of that happening. And one of those times we were at a beach park, and we were there to do a crossover session and see who was there. And there was like a former or a slave owner. And I remember asking, Jay, I said, well, how are we treating this situation with love? And he said, always. So it was like we still had to try to be non-judgmental, try to show love. And that's how we had to do it. I've come to understand, and in my personal opinion, I mean, after doing this now 14 years and doing thousands and thousands of readings and box sessions now from that point, which was still just brand new, that I don't believe that a spirit is necessarily stuck physically in a place. I feel like they're emotionally stuck, and some of them feel like they can't go anywhere, they can't move on, they don't, to be absent from God is to be absent from love, absent from light. So you're in darkness. So what, a lot of them would experience that they were in darkness because they didn't have God at that moment, or they didn't feel the light and love. So, and I also don't personally, this is me, I personally, after doing a lot of sessions, don't believe there is one centralized place where people go to burn for eternity in hell. I believe that there is each person can experience their own personal hell, which is being in darkness and feeling like there may be something nasty around them or whatever. But at some point, if they want to ask for help, or they're willing to be open and face what they did, if it's karma that they have to face their own karma, they can get out of that at some point. I don't believe that, whatever we do here in this finite amount of time on earth, that it's going to get you an eternity in hell. I think that you can eventually get out of that. So anyway, it's all about love, and that's really what really shaped me, because I was kind of always looking for a fight with the spirits if there was someone that was negative, but he was always like, calm down, chill out, Jay, Josh, it's not like that. We're going to give them some love. We're going to show them some love. They have to face what they have to face, but they're going to be okay. And I love them. And that was very interesting. Like I did a session, I asked for Nicole Brown and O.J. Simpson in one session. I remember I asked for Nicole first, and then I asked for O.J. And, Nicole was in the light. She was around, visiting her children, her adult children here. She was talking about being okay in the light, happy for the most part. And then we go to OJ. I went to OJ and I asked him through the box, and he said he was in darkness. He was falling. He was scared. And so he was experiencing some kind of personal hell at that time. And he wasn't willing to admit what he did, which we found sometimes that some of these souls, and people are really confused by that. They're like, how can he still not admit it? He's on the other side. And I go, because you have free will. Free will is not taken from you just because you die. You still have free will on the other side. So if someone wants to sit in their little pissy corner in darkness, they could still stay in that space until they're ready to come out of it. And, it was almost like Jay we would show up to these parks, to these cemeteries, to these places, and we would just show up as like the light team, trying to be willing and ready to help. And Jay would bring the souls that were ready. He would know who would be ready to go at that time. That they had been sitting for however many Earth years, waiting, simmering, kind of dealing with whatever pain that they had to deal with, but they were ready finally to have some little extra push of Connie and I and company to try to help them. And there would be groups, there would be these groups that would, well, this next group is, and it was almost like they'd be paired. Each group would have like some similarities. One group would be super sad and because they were very similar in how they died or how they lived. And then this other group was very angry. But so it was very interesting. We all had to kind of treat each group a little differently. And I would go, well, how am I going to know what to say? And it would be like, it would just come to me. It would come to us. It wasn't just me. It would come to us. And you'd always hear these groups, going, I see a man. Oh, I see a man. It's light. I see light. I see something. Something's happening, and then you're like, man. And then you would hear it through the box, light, man, and you're like, okay, that's the extra backup. That's the extra, confirmation. Really cool.
They
Yeah.
always described him too, right, Connie? They'd say like, "Oh, he's beautiful," or "He's in a robe."
Beautiful
They
man.
said
Yes.
he's in a robe, and you laughed. You're like, "Do you think he wears a robe?" That was awesome.
That's right.
Yeah, it was neat and oftentimes very beautiful to hear their, their expression of when they saw Jesus. For those
Their
that
first
did, some would
moments of
see an
seeing.
angel, some
Right.
would just see the light and feel the love, the presence of
Mhm.
that, or whatever they were experiencing as they were about to or in the process of crossing over. It was really just so enlightening and insightful, was it not, Josh? I mean, we
It
all
was
learned
it
so much.
it really was. It was like just it was so
How it all
magical.
works,
It what?
of how it all works.
Yeah, I mean, it was so magical and so special, and it's really interesting, this is what's wild about this is that, I think about it often, here I am now, like I said, I mean, that was back in 2013, so we're talking 13 years ago, and, I was at such a pivotal stage in my development, and you were too, and we all were. I mean, heck, Stacy was, being introduced to it by when I'd go see her and I would tell her about, I would tell you about this stuff. And so it was capturing you at that time. And it was a very important time. Look at where you are now with this. And, now here I am with, 215,000 subscribers on YouTube and, hundreds of thousands of subscribers on other, platforms. So there's all these people now that have started to follow the work. And with that has come, so there's so much love and beautiful people that have found the work and that are getting so much out of it from reading the book. There are so many that know who Connie is, that Connie has no idea who these people are. She does, she has like, so she's touched lives that she has no idea who she's touched because I've done videos on her and in the book. And but with that has come a lot of also attacks, right? So there's been a lot of people that have attacked me. I mean, now there's close to probably 15 hate videos that have been made about me on YouTube that are like, there's channels like dedicated to trying to take me down, trying to
You're
discredit
kidding.
me. I mean, they have my face plastered on videos as a demon. And I mean, it's absolutely insane the amount of attention that has been put
Didn't
on
know that.
trying to, get me taken off of YouTube and all these other crazy things. And it's, at times it has affected me where I'm like, wow, that really sucks, But the point I'm making is that it's like, I'm very grateful that I discovered all of this and had that very safe, like almost incubated time to work with Connie and the group where I didn't have that outside noise and I got to be able to kind of just dive into this and allow the belief and allow the evidence to take me and allow the journey. And, now I'm grateful that it's like I believe I'm strong enough now still, like I've gotten stronger over the years to be able to withstand that, that hate. Like people say like, aren't you afraid of being attacked by demons and stuff doing this work? And I say, no. I've been doing this for 14 years. 99% of what I've captured has all been positive, love, light filled. It's been rewarding. I live a blessed life. I feel very, just grateful and blessed. I said, it's not the demons on the other side that I deal with. It's the demons that are here in meat suits that are in people's bodies that I have to
On
deal with, that I didn't realize that would be the problem that I would have to deal with. I thought it would be like a paranormal issue I'd have to deal with. They're no problem. I can deal with those people on the other side. They're pleasant compared to the people that I have to deal with here sometimes. So, but I'm grateful that it's like he has done this thing where I talk about him, Jay, that he doesn't give me more than what I'm ready for until I'm ready for it. So it's like he gives it to me in stages, knowing that okay, now you're ready for this part. And now you're ready for this part. And now I'm holding off on that. You're not getting that yet because you're not ready for that. And I'm like, but I want it. I want that. And he's like, no, you're not. You're not ready. You think you're ready. You're like a 5-year-old that thinks that you're able to ride a two-wheeler. You're not. You still need training wheels for this and whatever. But then, when you get to 7 years old, we'll take the training wheels off. And it's like, and then I go, oh, that's why. Okay, that's why I didn't get it 2 years ago, or that's why this didn't happen. So it's still, he's still right there, taking me right along the ride, where I need to go.
So
Well,
true.
I have to say it's just, it's surprising for me to hear that, but I guess maybe not so surprising when you think about it sometimes with how some people are. But it was such, we were doing this out of total service work to Jesus Christ and our fellow brothers and sisters. We put a lot of time into this every single week. We weren't getting paid. We weren't getting anything out of it other than we were showing up, in service to Jesus and to help his children, get to, the place that they really belong in the spirit realm, that have passed on from this physical realm, but have not fully moved on into the spirit realm where they belong. And so we were doing them a beautiful service, every single one of those humans, and also doing it in total devotion and love and service to Jesus. So, I think, I suspect, that many of these people you're referring to just really might not have a full understanding of really what was taking place and what we were doing and why and how we were helping and that Jesus himself was there every single moment, every single time. I mean, he was guiding and directing everything. Of course, we didn't know what to do. We were
No,
asking him, Jesus, what do we do with this person? How do we help? What do we say? What do they need? And he would just guide us and instruct us word for word throughout the whole session or time. So,
to me, I wear it as a badge of honor because it is in total devotion to him. A lot of these people, they either don't believe in this work or they think it's negative or something like that because they're not understanding. They're very religious or they're just complete cynics, and they just, so they, wish to attack what they don't believe, contempt prior to investigation, or they're just, they have a certain idea. Anytime I deal with that kind of stuff, I really think back at what, and I'm not comparing myself in any way, shape, or form to the big guy, but I think about, the ridicule and the stuff that he had to deal with when he was here, trying to share his messages and what he was, the scorn and the disbelief. I mean, there was always people that did believe in him and would follow him, but there was probably many more that didn't and that would, is heresy and how could this guy be the guy to bring the message and we're not going to accept him. And his message was always just one of unconditional love and non-judgment, as you said, Connie. So it's like that's the example. I can't live up to that example, but I can try to shoot for that the best I can when I can. I have to keep saying that, that's okay. I've been like you guys have been chosen in a sense. I don't want to say chosen. Actually, that's a very kind of weird word, but we've been, allowed to do this special light work in a way, and kind of, do this. And, it's just an honor. I mean, it really is. I mean, I'm still to this day, I think, like, how blessed I am. I had big plans to be an entrepreneur. I had big plans to be a filmmaker, and be in Hollywood at this point. But instead, I'm here behind my desk, and running events and doing things where, I'm helping connect with people, doing readings. I have a reading right after this, and still after over 5,000 readings that I've done, I still will, get done with a reading and go, holy crap, like that person's loved one just came through. There was this positive message for them. It was very beautiful. It was just wonderful. And I give all credit to him that he's doing it. I mean, I say right before a reading, Lord, allow for the most important messages to come through. I believe in you. I believe in me, and this ability, allow for whatever it needs to happen. And it always does. And it's like, it's the faith that I keep putting in him. So it's just a blessing. It's just a blessing.
Josh, I want to touch real quick because we were talking about the cynics a little bit. And when you first found out that J is not an angel, but the big J, Jesus Christ, that Connie is talking about, you had a little bit of like coming to terms. And you actually asked Jesus that night in a prayer, sort of one to one with Jesus. And then the next time you met with Connie, she actually answered your question. You talk about it in your book about what you talked about in a private conversation with Jesus yourself. What was that kind of coming to terms like for you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of those moments where, when she told me that she's talking to Jesus, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of hard for me to kind of accept, excuse me. But there was plenty of already moments prior to that he would say something and it would come true, or there was something that was like undeniable. I remember one of the times that, uh, I was getting ready to go to Colorado for a film festival, and he was like, you have this great big surprise coming in Colorado to you. Just wait. And we go there and we ended up winning best film at the film festival. So there was this wonderful, thing that would happen. And so there was a lot of those moments. And yeah, and there was times that he would say, I mean, people would say, like, well, how do you know that she's really channeling Jesus and that it's not some like, demon pretending to be Jesus, and I would say, I don't know exactly how to answer that, and then asking him, I mean, through her, he would say, I'm not giving you anything through Connie that I can't give to you myself. If you ever are in doubt, just pray to me directly. You don't need to go to me through her only. He's like, this is just an extra channel that I'm giving you, but you pray to me directly, and that's what you do. And I remember doing that. I don't remember exactly what it was that he confirmed. There was something that I remember asking specifically, and I don't know if it's in the book or what it was. I might have put it in there, but I remember it being just this wow moment for me when I came back the next day after praying that night. And then, and he said exactly what it was in the prayers. It was something very specific. And
I
yeah,
remember
I
that
mean,
at
it was
all.
just, it was
Been
just
quite some time
remarkable.
ago.
Huh? I know. That's why I'm grateful. Thank God. I'm going to be honest. Thank God he got me to finally write the book when I did, because now I'm like, I don't know what the heck is even in this book anymore. I'm
Explain.
serious. Like, I mean, they kept saying to me, write the book through the sessions. They were like, write the book. You have to write the book. You have to write the book. And I'm like, all right, like, I guess I have to write the book because, and then finally I started taking notes and I started, writing up my timeline and everything. And it was like crazy when I was writing that book. I was like, there was just stuff coming to me as I was writing. And then I would like, it was very personal, some of it. So I would like try to skip over some of it, and I'd be like, I don't want to put that in there. I'm not putting that in there. That's a little too much. And they would bring me back to that part and they'd be like, that needs to go in there now. And I'd be like, oh man, all right. So I'm grateful it's all in there now, because I've had people message me and they're like, I've read your book 3 times. I read it every year. It's one of the greatest books I've ever read. And I'm like, yeah, right. And I'm not saying that like I literally feel like there was a team writing that book because I've written stuff and I don't feel like I'm that good of a writer like that. That's a different like that's another, I don't know, like they took over the keyboard and they were like, all right, Josh, sit to the side for a second. Let us help you here. You know what I mean? Because, like, I don't know, like, there's a whole I've read some of it again, and I'm like, "I wrote that? No, I didn't write that. Someone else wrote that. That part, I didn't write that. That's like, that was good. That sounded good there." So I don't remember it. I don't know. It's really wild. When you're a channel, spirit can really take over and really kinda do some amazing things with you, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. Connie, you forget a lot. Like it comes in because it's not
Right,
your thought, and she'll be like, "Wait, what? We talked
I
about what?"
forget a lot of what's said when I'm channeling or doing client consults. I really don't remember a lot of what's said. But I will point out that, it took me a good couple plus months when I first started communicating to the spirit of Jesus for the first time, which I only did as as the request of a client. I had an
right,
intuitive client consultation, and she knew that, I communicate to angels or the spirit of deceased loved ones or even of an animal, had the soul of an animal to find out, why they're behaving in a certain way to help with that or something or whatever it may be, or health issue with an animal. And then she said, Connie, you can speak to the spirit of just almost anyone. Why don't you can we talk to Jesus? I'm like, oh, no, of course not. I can't talk to Jesus. What? And we ended up having the consult and we hung up. And then, like a few days later, I just thought about it. I like, well, can I? Could I? Like, no. And anyway, that's the first time I was home alone and I started communicating to the spirit of Jesus and I wouldn't tell anyone, not even my mother or anyone for at least a couple of months. I didn't even fully believe it. It took me a couple of months and eventually and he even I just remember him saying something like, "Of course, why" he says, "All of my children can connect. We're meant
right.
you're meant to connect with me. You're meant to communicate and hear from me directly, all of us. It's just a spiritual faculty that has become dormant for most of us over the eons." But that's natural. We're not meant to be disconnected from God, from Jesus. And it's definitely understandable that, it's something that can maybe widen the scope of one's belief systems or their, level of understanding of what's possible or even just our state of consciousness. So anyway, that was a little tough one for me for a little while as well.
And that's really a good point because see, this is the thing. I did a lot of judging early on of how mediums should be, knowing that I know nothing about mediums. So I'm thinking, I mean, Connie would get lost sometimes in driving somewhere, and I'd say, "Why don't you just ask Spirit exactly the directions or something?" Or "Why don't you just do this?" Or, how come you can't do this part or something?" It's almost like I would say, I would try to judge almost, and it was just part of my, lack of maturity, lack of knowledge. It was my own ignorance, and then all of a sudden, it was like once my ability came about, I mean, again, Connie, Jay says through Connie, "You are gonna start doing this yourself." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Like now you're getting silly now, you know what I mean? And it's like, but here I am, 5,000 readings later, and it still works. And I'm like, but all the things that I kind of had these preconceived notions of how mediumship or psychic ability should work, all of a sudden now here I am doing it, and I'm now seeing that's why. That's why it doesn't work exactly the way I thought it did, or that's why you can't just do this exactly how this goes or whatever. You can't just get every single piece of information you want. Like there are some limits at times to it and there's some ways it comes in. Sometimes there's the human filter that we have that can get in the way of it. Our own desires, our own wants, our own prejudgments of certain things can get in the way of a pure channeling sometimes. And so, I thought it was working, it would work a certain way, and then all of a sudden I had to learn myself. And then I'd go, okay, I understand now what Connie was talking about. When I didn't before, I couldn't figure it out, but now I understand. So, some people, like the skeptics or the cynics are going, well, why don't you just get the lottery numbers? And why can't they just tell you where their body is? And why can't you just tell it? Why can't they just speak in full sentences? And I'm like, I don't know. This is what happens. This is the way it is. There are limitations. They are in another dimension and they are speaking through my brain or through my, spirit box. Sorry, it's not an iPhone from AT&T and T, and that they can just like say whatever they want. Like, I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? I get frustrated sometimes with those people, but then I have to remember how I thought in the beginning. So it's all like, perspective, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Josh, you said in your book that this work is important to human evolution. Connie, would you agree? And then Josh, what's your comment on that? Explain.
Well, I'm sure it is, but, I'll let Josh answer that since it's your book and since you remember a lot more of it than I do. I haven't even read it in a long time, so but
I mean, I think what it is that, I saw this video of a guy that this very religious guy made a video about me about 5 months ago. And he is, he was very kind, but he was attacking me in a very kind manner about, this fellow Josh thinks he's talking to spirit. Those are just all demons. And the Bible says this and the Bible says that. And the dead know nothing. And you can't pray for them either. That's a Catholic, silly Catholic, belief and all of this. And I'm watching that and I'm going, no wonder we are where we are, with the world and the way that people think. When he goes, if you see this video, just repent now. Turn your life over and give up this evil. And I'm going, this poor guy, you know what I mean? Like, and he believes it wholeheartedly and he thinks he's out to save the world. And so, the fact is that even though spiritualistic or spiritualism has been around for a while, it's still very much still ahead of its time in the fact that, religion really does suck. I mean, there's a lot of good aspects. There's a lot of good belief in all religions, right? If you strip it down to the core, there really is some really beautiful things in, Hinduism and Muslim, Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism. They all have Buddhism. They all have the beauty of love and devotion to a higher power and connecting with, but there's so much negative, fearful, dogmatic thoughts that go along with it, and they really prevent people from understanding. So when there are people like us that are willing to talk about Jesus Christ but in a more gnostic, in a more beautiful, open, all inclusive, never exclusive manner, that is a beautiful message, and that is a healing message. And there are a lot of people that have been alienated by religious, beliefs and religions and fearful things and thinking. And all of a sudden, they may come upon a Connie channeling or your channel or mine, and they go, wow, this really aligns with what I always believed and thought. Like, this is really wonderful. This is a different way of looking at it. And he still incorporates prayer and Jesus in his work. And that's so rare because everyone that believes in Jesus thinks that, you know, this is all nonsense and evil and all that. So I think it is smashing down walls. So I think it is pushing forth the spiritual evolution, uh, but it's still got a long ways to go. But it's working. I mean, it's helping. I think it's making a big difference. But I think it should be like, millions and millions of people should be, hip to it. And then I think about him saying, it's fine. It's reaching the people that it needs to reach at this time. If there's people that are not accepting of it and they're in masses, those people are just not ready yet. But the people that it is finding, it's just like those groups that Connie and I would go to these parks and we would sit and we would go, okay, Jesus, who's next? Well, I'm bringing a group to you now. That's who it's finding the work. He'll bring the group to the videos, to the channel when they're ready, just like he did to the parks and the cemeteries when we were there. So it's still being done just in a different way, but using technology.
So true. Connie, we're getting a lot of messages coming through our channel about the future of humanity. Are you getting anything like that, Josh, of like what the future holds? Are any of these spirits talking the big
I used to get some
game?
things in I used to get some things in spirit box sessions. There was some stuff that they were giving me. I got one message about something happening on Easter once, and they were really talking about it, like, and they were like, "You need to share it. You need to share it." And I shared it. Nothing happened on that Easter. So then I had a lot of blowback, and they could have been talking about an Easter, a few years from now, and I might have misinterpreted some of it. So I try to stay away from the messages that are making these premonitions. I try to stay in like I'm just asking for people's loved ones, and I'm asking for well-known people, and the messages that I mainly get are, I mean, some people are not in a great space, and so they're still dealing with some emotional stuff, and others are just, they're sharing that they walk with God, they're in the light, they're with loved ones, and they express how they feel. I feel a little bit more comfortable with what I'm getting in that regard. And I did do, like, I took part in a study, an experiment called the 2060 experiment, where this Dr. Stephen Schwartz interviewed like 1,500 psychics, me being one of them. And he asked for these premonitions. And I gave him all this information that I was getting about flooding and weird sections of the US and expansion into Mexico and all of this craziness that I was getting. Some of it's come true in some aspects, like some of the specifics. But I don't know. I try to just stay in the now and try to trust that, you know, everything is right where it's supposed to be in the world. Nothing happens in God's world by mistake. So when I'm seeing something I don't agree with or I don't like, I have to try to be careful about like judging it. But yeah, I'm not getting anything else about like crazy premonitions about the future or anything.
Connie, how do we work with you if people are interested in working with you? And then Josh, I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you still, we have groups, we have private sessions. So Connie, I'll have you start. How can people best work with you?
Yes, well, I offer private phone consultations, and my you can visit me on my website at helpersfromheaven.
And then our group.
And of course, duh. And of course, I don't know if you're familiar with this or not yet, Josh, but Stacy and I have an online spiritual community and school. It's all channeled content. It's an enormous amount of content that we have done. How many hundreds of hours of video content for way more than 10 years, Stacy, together. And it's much of it is from Jesus, but some of it is from angels or other divine masters. And it's all about how to grow spiritually rapidly, how to expand consciousness, heal the heart, and grow our soul. Yeah, grow our soul's awareness.
Is
So,
that on Patreon? Where do you have that?
We have it on School, SKOOL.
School.
yeah,
Okay.
SKOOL. Yeah,
Right. I've seen
online
advertisements for
platform,
that.
community platform, and school.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's really, really neat. And then also just a community to connect with others around the world that,
that's right.
are of like mind and are spiritual seekers. And we help each other heal the heart and grow our soul's awareness and connect to God, develop God consciousness more effectively, more quickly. So yeah, it's really great. It's
Well, it
exciting.
works for
So.
me.
Josh is a testimony.
I'm
And
a
then Josh, you have
satisfied client. And what am I? Not only am I the what I forgot the hair club thing that they used to say. Not only am I a client, I'm the owner of something. Anyway, that it worked for me. So that's all I'm saying. Yeah. I'm on hopeparanormal.com. You could find all my stuff, hopeparanormal.com, the channel and all the stuff that I'm offering, Patreon group sessions, readings. So, yeah, it's all there and people could check it out. And I'm excited to share this with my community because I've shared stuff about Connie many times over the years, and I've done some spiritual stories on my other Medium channel, my lesser known channel. That's where I just reach out to people's loved ones, and I've done some, spiritual stories. I've talked about the life piece that, came through, Jesus and her. And that was, a very special moment. So, but I'm excited. I'm excited. I'll share this on my Facebook and everywhere else so that people can get a little bit more of an understanding of what you guys are doing in addition. And everyone should know about Connie and what she's doing. So I think that's really super special. So, yeah.
Well, it is
Amen.
super special to have us 3 here together, Josh.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
Really
Yeah,
special. Thank you.
really.
Thanks for inviting me on, Stacy.
Well, I
Thank
met
you.
Stacy and I met each other through you, of course, you mentioning
That's
us
right.
to both of
Stacy was
us,
a
so
massage therapist, and I would go get
that
my
time.
massages. It was a different time then. I don't remember the last time I had a massage, but I would go get a massage and I'd sit on the massage bed and I'd be like, "Oh my God, Jesus came through today with Connie and we talked to Hitler and we talked to this one and we talked to that one." And she's like, kind of like going, "What the heck is going on?" And she's
No,
like
I was
rubbing my
literally,
back
like,
or
nodding and crying on your back. You just didn't know it.
I
I was like,
mean,
"Oh my god, you're what? You're doing what?" And
I
then
know.
I said, "I have to meet this woman. Like, if there's 6 degrees of separation between me and someone who can communicate with Jesus in my lifetime, sign me up."
I
And we
was like,
went
either
friends.
this one thinks I'm absolutely insane or she's intrigued. I don't know which one, but I'm gonna just still share what I'm getting because I don't care. Whoever listens at this point, I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell because that's where I was. I was just so blown away by it all.
Well, I
Yeah.
had that a paranormal experience is what we started talking about this first. So you were just businessman turned paranormal investigator when I met you. And then like your next session, you're like, everything's changed. I met this woman. She could speak to the spirits. And then that's when you told me like, we crossed over Hitler. And I was like, what?
Yeah, I know. Some
So that's
people
how it all started.
some people are listening to this for the first time. They're going, "What the hell are they talking about?" But that's okay. Hang in there. Hang in there. I promise. It's I tell people, I'm like, if they just find me for the first time or they'll see a clip and they'll go, "What the hell is this?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, just hang in there. Go watch the full session. And then they'll come back, a week later and go, "I just dived into a bunch of your sessions and you're right. Like, wow, you really explained this, or, this is really coming through. I'm glad that I didn't just jump ship right away because of how ridiculous it sounds," which I don't blame people. But if they
Right.
hang in there, or they listen to Connie's messages, like you'll all of a sudden you'll go, "Wow, that's really some really powerful information." Like it's hard to deny that is really powerful. Like, wow, you know what I mean? I mean, there were many times we would listen to her, listen to him through her and give some of the most poignant, powerful, impactful messages that you're just like, that you can't deny that. That's really wild stuff, really powerful. So anyway, really
Very
amazing. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank
It's
you for
it's
joining us,
awesome. We should do it
Josh.
again
Thanks for
down the
being
road
here,
another
Josh.
time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Josh. I know you're on a time crunch. So
Yep, you got it.
appreciate you.
Okay. Bye.
Love you
Bye.
all.
Love you.
Bye.